Welcome to Education in Focus. I'm your host, Eliana Kernodle. Georgia state authorities have announced that the father of the suspect accused of killing 4 and wounding 9 more at a Metro Atlanta high school has been arrested for his part in providing weapons for the suspect to use. Joining me to dig into this is Chalkboard News editor Brendan Clary. Brendan, what do we know about these charges and the role of the father in this case?
Yeah, so what we know is that the Georgia Bureau of Investigation has arrested the shooter's father, Colin Gray, in connection with the attack on Apalachee High School in Barrow County, Georgia, last week. And just as like kind of a note point of order, at Chalkboard, we don't use school shooters' names in an effort to reduce notoriety. We don't want to give them any, more airtime. We don't want to give them anything, right? And that's in hopes that we're not, propping them up and giving them a platform, for ideological issues or whatever like that. So in hopes of reducing, future people who unfortunately may be interested in this from getting any exposure as well. So just in an effort to do that and have a moral responsibility to do that, we feel like at Chalkboard News. So, but anyway, with that out of the way, essentially, the state authorities are saying that he's been arrested in connection with the shooting with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter and 2 counts of second-degree murder and 8 counts of cruelty to children. So those are the legal charges. That doesn't mean he's guilty. That means he stands accused of those things. And so, these are all what we have to be careful in journalism to use, alleged and suspect until a court of law has determined that is the case. So that's why we use shooting suspect and that the father is charged with these things. But that's essentially the backstory. There is that for the father's part in providing the weapon, that he is being charged for that. So the GBI released a statement on Thursday that he knowingly allowed his son to have the weapon. So that is I think really what it comes down to is, can they prove that the father through negligence or, intentionally kind of allowed this to happen? So that's essentially what the charges are focused on. And there is legal precedent for a case like this for parents to be charged. What's kind of the background there? Yeah, absolutely. So this has recent legal precedent. I mean, as of this year, a school shooter in Oxford, Michigan, his parents were charged by the Oakland County prosecutor, and they were successful in proving that the parents were criminally responsible for the high school shooter getting access to weapons and not stopping what happened from taking place. Like, they were in a position to do that. And so it is that's the first time that parents have been prosecuted for their children carrying this out. So I think that the intention there is to obviously have justice for the families of these victims, of these students who are killed. But it's also, I think, an idea that if you have weapons in your home and your student has access to them and then tries to do something, then you can be held criminally liable. So that is something that I think in a case to case, it might be a little bit different, but there is legal precedent there and it has worked before. And it might be something that continues to, become in play and play out in different courts. Unfortunately, as this continues to happen, I think it might be something that we're seeing prosecutors using or authorities using to charge parents of school shooters. What else did the Georgia Bureau of Investigation director have to say about this case in the press conference that they held? Yeah, they said they're continuing to look for that, and at the time too, they were getting a lot of copycat reports. So that's something that unfortunately happens after a school shooting, is that you have people maliciously calling schools and saying, I'm gonna do something and calling it a lot of threats. So it's sort of adding a lot of upheaval to, a time when there's so much upheaval and the police are, investigating the specifics there, but they can't, basically you can't not respond to threats if they're being made against a school. So they're continuing to investigate those things as well. So I think that's kind of the main thing is they're continuing to look into all these different details. And, there's more information about, the mother potentially having some information a little bit before the school shooter started opening fire. And so there's just more information coming to light. And I think we'll have a clearer picture in the coming days about, what happened and sort of the different kinds of motivations or, potential like security failures that could have happened.
Well, this terrible, tragic event comes as students across the country are returning to school. You talked to an advocate for parents and children about the impacts of a shooting like this for families everywhere. Who did you talk to and what did she have to say?
Yeah, I talked to Lisa Pion-Berlin, who's the CEO of Parents Anonymous, which is an organization to support parents and their children with resources and expert help. And she basically said, I've been helping families for a long time, she told me, and that really when it comes to school shootings, like these are very difficult situations and kids might have a lot of feelings, but she really said parents might have a lot of feelings first and that you need to address those and be calm before you try to discuss that with your child. So, if you have to go into the bathroom and scream and cry, do that and then go talk to your kids instead of having sort of an emotional interaction with them because you're the adult. You have to be in control. And then you can hear them and listen to them and tell them that you love them and that they're safe because they are. She said, in that moment, you don't know the future, but in that moment, they're with you and they are safe. And I think that, it is, unfortunately, when you look at these kinds of instances, you find that there's so much unpredictability in life. And Pion-Berlin said that, unfortunately, there could be a traffic incident next week. Like we're not sure about our lives. And it's kind of hard to talk about that anyway with children. You're kind of facing mortality. But essentially, being able to listen to them and try to explain things to them at different levels that are age appropriate. If you have two kids, one of them is, 4 and another one is 12, it's going to be different conversations, right? About what that looks like and what's going on in the news. And so I think she just said that is very, very important to kind of, decide where your children are developmentally and have an appropriate conversation with them or just, separate them. And also to be watchful, to be thinking about, are they not eating because of the anxiety? And I think that this is probably, much more likely in the school districts around where the shooting happened, right? Where things are in a, maybe there were threats called in and more, I mean, this is a nationwide thing as well. But, in those specific instances, it is good, Pion-Berlin said, just to keep an eye out and to have those kind of conversations and to be noticeable, like to be noticing those physical, symptoms, but that can be an underlying, emotional issue as well, that maybe your kid's not talking to you about something, but they're saying that they have a stomach ache and they can't go to school today. So that, for example, would maybe be, okay, well, we actually have to deal with the underlying thing is that you're afraid to go to school because of what you've heard. And so let's talk about that and try to figure that out.
Well, Brendan, thank you for your insights on these stories. Listeners can keep up with these stories and more at chalkboardnews.com.